maybe a good time to catch some movies at home or spend some time in theater. So for a look at what's new this weekend, we're joined live by film critic Richard Crouse. Richard, always good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Marvel and vampires, what's happening here?
This is Morbius, which is in theaters this weekend. Jared Leto stars as Dr. Michael Morbius, who's suffered a rare blood disease ever since childhood. When he was in a hospital, when he was just a boy, he had to have his blood changed 3 times a day. He meets another young guy with the same disease named Milo. Cut to 30 years later, Milo is unimaginably rich and has funded Dr. Michael Morbius's research into finding a cure for their disease. Trouble is, he gets one, but it turns them into vampires. Morbius goes one way. He's conflicted with the moral implications of having to drink blood. Milo, not so much. He's gone kind of hog wild with the whole thing, and it leads to a confrontation between the two of them. So this, to me, feels like a movie that probably should not be rated PG-13. As it is, it's kind of a generic story, and it feels like all the horror elements were kind of siphoned off it in order to allow younger people to see it as well. So for me, it didn't really work all that well. It's called Morbius, and I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Ooh. It's in theaters right now.
Oh, you didn't like that one, Richard.
No, I did not.
Okay, what about this one? This is a mouthful and an eyeful, and I think my colleagues would say the name of my memoir, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. What's this about?
This I loved. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is the story of a couple who own a laundromat. They're in hot water with the IRS. When they get to the IRS, though, the wife, played by the great Michelle Yeoh, discovers that she's just one of many of her characters. She exists in a multiverse, and there is someone like her with the same name but a different personality in every imaginable universe, and she gets thrust into those universes to gain knowledge, fight evil, and then come back and work in our realm. And I know it sounds like a Marvel movie, and I know it sounds kind of complicated, but as frenetic as it is, as wild as it is, it's not hard to follow. And it's not a Marvel movie. This is a story that is, at its very soul, at its very heart, is all about finding the good in one another, exercising kindness in our interactions with one another, and accepting people for who they are. Mm-hmm. It's called Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. I will tell you, you may think you know what this is about, even after my description, but you've never seen a movie quite like this. And I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and it's in theaters right now.
Okay, you like that one, not the Marvel movie, but this one that's like the Marvel movie. Sounds interesting. And something else that we're going to start to see, if we haven't already, and we've started to, is the pandemic being a backdrop for films. And it's the backdrop for a new comedy on Netflix from Judd Apatow called The Bubble. Oh, that's a pandemic term.
Yeah, it's such a pandemic term. We all know what it means, which is sort of hanging out with your bubble, the 3 or 4 or 5 people that you're allowed to be with or were allowed to be with. What this story is a bunch of Hollywood actors brought together to make a movie called Cliff Beasts 6. It's the 6th installment of this wild science fiction epic franchise, and they have to quarantine. They have to be in a bubble to make this movie. And it is just essentially what happens when you put a very entitled, very spoiled actors in a luxury hotel and tell them that they can't do whatever the heck they want for a very long time. This movie made me laugh simply because of the entitled behavior that's on display. The pandemic backdrop is played for laughs, absolutely, but it's the satire of Hollywood that I found funny. So I gave The Bubble 3.5 out of 5 stars, and it's on Netflix this weekend.
Okay, something to think about if you want to watch a movie in theaters or at home on a streaming service. Thanks so much, Richard Crouse. As always, have a great weekend.
Thanks for having me.